Hi, welcome to this video about sequences. What you see before you on the screen is a sequence denoted with the letter U. And sequences are a part of discrete math, which means they're not continuous. They are discrete. They exist in separate entries with nothing in between them. You can't connect them with a line. They're always separated dots. They are never a continuum. So this letter U denotes the sequence, and this letter N denotes the place in the sequence. A sequence has places, so a fourth is in the first place, 2/5 is in the second place, a half is in the third place, 4/7 is in the fourth place. So if I were to say what is U of 2, then that would be the entry 2/5, because 2/5 is in the second place. Now, what is the actual problem here? The problem is that we are supposed to find an explicit formula, or a closed form expression, as it's sometimes called, for this sequence. Which means I want a formula which can tell me what's the number in place number 79. I want to be able to plug that into my formula and have my formula say the entry at place 79. In order to do that, we can try some things, which students usually do. You try to find maybe something to go from one to the other, which is constant. When this constant is something that you add, you usually call it V. So you try to find some V that turns a fourth into 2/5. And the same V that when you add it to 2/5, it turns into a half. Another thing you can do is try to find something to multiply, usually denoted with the letter Q. So maybe a number that when you multiply a fourth, you get 2/5. And when you multiply 2/5 with that same number, you get a half. If this works, if you can find either one of these things, then that's great, because there are formulas that go with these things, and you can just use them and find the explicit formula. So it's maybe something that you've learned by heart. And when you find that V, you're very happy. So that works. Or when you find that Q, it doesn't really matter, because you know the formulas. But when you can't find these V's or these Q's, then what are you supposed to do? That is what we will look into in this video. So in order to find what's at place 79, we need to express this sequence in terms of its places. That is what makes an explicit formula explicit. It only uses the places. It only uses N. On the other hand, when a formula is recursive, you usually see things like U n minus 1, which means it uses the previous entry to calculate the next entry. Which means if we were to make a recursive formula, then we would need to know what is at place 78 in order to find 79. But when we need 78, we also need 77, because we need 77 to calculate 78. That's why we call it recursive, because you need previous entries to calculate next entries. But in explicit formulas, you don't. You can calculate 79 without 78, without 77. You can calculate it based on the places in the sequence alone. So we need to find something to express this sequence in terms of its places. Now, if you look at the numerator, we can see here that this matches this 1. The numerator matches the place. That's great. And here we have the same thing. It matches the place. And here we have the same thing. It matches the place. So that's something that stands out. What what doesn't stand of something that is bothering me is this 1/2. This is the entry that's bothering me because it doesn't follow this rule. It has a 1 where it should have a 3. If it had a 3, then it would be very great. Then we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, exactly as the places 1, 2, 3, 4. And we could say that the numerator is just n. Whatever the place is, the numerator is that number. But now it's a half, and it doesn't have a 3, so we need to check the denominator. We have 4, 5, 2, and 7. Those numbers also nicely line up, except for that 2. If that 2 was a 6, then we would have 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that would be great. And then comes a little bit of the magic, or the wow moment, or the aha moment, because a half, that is the same as 3/6. So I can just delete that entry that is not so nice, and just replace it with the one that is nice, namely 3/6. Now I can verify that the numerator is indeed just n. Whatever the place is, the numerator is that number. Whatever the place is, the numerator is that number. And for the denominator, we have 4, 5, 6, and 7. We need an explicit formula, so the denominator also has to be expressed in terms of n. N is 1 here, n is 2 here, and we need to get a 4, and we need to get a 5. So if n is 1 in place number 1, and we need 4, that means we need to add 3. At place 1, if we add 3 to the denominator, we will get that 4. If we're at place 2 and we add 3 to the denominator, then we will get that 5, and so on. So this is the explicit formula of the sequence n divided by n plus 3. This will allow us to determine which number is at place 79, namely 79 in the numerator and 79 plus 3, which is 82, in the denominator. And that is how we solve this problem, which in the first place didn't seem all that solvable. We had that 1/2 that was about a thorn in our eye. We tried to find V's, we tried to find Q's to see some regularity, but when it doesn't appear, you need to think outside of the box. And it's about thinking, what would I want this exercise to be? How would I like this exercise to look like? And for me, I already said it, if that 3/6 was there instead of that 1/2, it would look nice. So I tried a puzzle, I tried to see if I can turn that entry into the one that I actually want. And in this case, we saw that that is exactly the way to do it. So this was my first video. I hope you liked it, and I hope you learned something. Thank you very much.